Podcast with Tek and Prem.
It's the Vet Alumni Podcast. I'm Tek, he's Prem, and we're back. Howie season is officially underway.
It is. And look, Baun's already locked up. If you would have told me on February 10th, waking up ecstatic from the Super Bowl win, hey, Zach Baun is not going to even hit free agency, I would say, you know what? Sign me up for that. Sign me up for that.
I didn't think he would.
I agree.
Jeff McClain said a week and a half ago that he wouldn't, and he was right. Saquon
Crucial.
Extended. He's now the richest running back in NFL history, which I know a lot of people are scratching their heads. I think it's a great move.
It is. That was Jeffrey Lurie just expressing appreciation, and it also saves money on the cap.
I was just about to say, and when I saw several people tweeting like this was just all about rewarding the guy, it's like it's half about rewarding the guy. It's about
the cap too.
It's about the cap.
And then they got an extra $5 from Cut and Slay. You just created $10 million cap space. You paid Baun $17 a year.
Yep.
And you're not even feeling all that in terms of the cap because of the other adjustments. Now you're going into free agency with very clear, defined needs, which are just cornerback and edge rusher. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the two real needs on this team. That's
it.
We'll talk about it.
Let's get into that right now.
Because they're going to re-sign Becton.
So, I think they're going to let him test the market.
He wants to be here, though.
Yeah. Because teams like Jacksonville and Chicago, I think, are the rumored interest.
They're going to throw
Chicago.
money at him, yeah.
Yeah, but if it's comparable, I think he'll come back.
He stays here, yeah.
I can't go over like 8.85. I can't. I
Not
can't.
When you have Jeff Stoutland doing his thing, because you know that
I got Steen, I got Keegan in the pipeline.
Exactly.
For me,
and Keegan was an All-American, I believe,
from Michigan, a championship squad. So for me, my walkaway number is right around that 9.
Right. And you know what, Mekhi Becton, such a touching moment on the field after the Super Bowl. Moments like that,
he wants to be here.
They really impact someone's decision. When you're already making millions of dollars, and if he stays healthy, he knows he's going to get another contract after this. A couple million, it sounds crazy as middle-class guys saying it, but guys will choose a little bit less money to win more rings.
Some will, yeah.
I think Becton seems like that kind of player. I think it'd be great to return the entire starting 11 on offense. That would be really a cool thing.
Goal. That's
after
why
a Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
That's rare.
And I would love for that to be the case because I like Becton. And if you look at a lot of those big Saquon runs, it was on Becton's side.
He's mammoth, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the biggest line, would they say, almost in the history of the league almost.
Yeah,
think, right?
and Steen, by the way, Steen did well, too.
He held his own.
Because Steen was in a lot, and we didn't even realize he was in.
Right, and that's what you want.
Yes.
Just like you don't want to hear a cornerback's name when they're playing the game. You really don't want to hear their name at all because it's usually only bad.
Right.
Unless they're getting an interception. Like you didn't hear Quinyon Mitchell's name a lot this year, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Same thing with offensive linemen.
I agree. Slay and Bradbury were released, and those are June 1st releases, and that's when you'll get that money savings off the cap. But, look.
I agree with both moves.
It's obvious. And I know people want Slay back, and for all we know, you can't rule out that they would bring Slay back. I think the asking price is somewhere between $8 and $9 million a year. It's a little rich for me.
Yeah.
I think I would do it if it was more like between 6 and 7, and not 8 and 9.
Here's my reason why I wouldn't. And a guy like Byron Murphy from the Vikings, 27 years old, looking maybe $7 or $8 million a year. People don't realize, but Byron Murphy's one of the most prolific ball hawks in the league over the last 3-4 years. Already, coming into a defense that already turns the ball over a lot with a lockdown like Quinyon on one side. Byron Murphy, in my opinion, is just who I would go after if I'm Howie, out of value and age and the ball hawk nature of his play. All those things, the matrix of all those things is appealing to me. And I would like to see him be brought in at the cornerback position if you don't sign Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm in favor of Isaiah Rodgers. I think you can get him for cheaper than even that. I think
they're
you can
comparable.
get him somewhere between $4 and $6 million.
Byron Murphy might be a little bit better.
And a little bit more expensive.
A couple million.
I like Zay. I would bring him back. I think you put him there. At times he got cooked, but look, at times Slay got cooked too. Slay, the difference was Slay was locked down when the lights were the brightest and the stage was the biggest. In the biggest moments, in the biggest matchups,
man.
He was locked down.
It was his best year statistically.
Yeah, because there was moments in the first half of the year where he did get cooked, okay, a bunch. But, like, that's okay. That seems like that's always kind of happened. But when it mattered, like when he locked up Justin Jefferson when he played him in that one-on-one.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain moments where he comes up big in those big moments. And that was a primetime game.
Yeah, it was.
When he's in those primetime moments, he becomes big play Slay. So, like, I really liked the guy. I thought he had a great playoffs. And
He had a great. I mean, the interception against the Packers was just an effortless interception.
It was fantastic.
What a great highlight to rewatch.
Right.
But the whole year, when you look at his statistics, he had statistically his best season as a pro at 34 years old.
Which is
But
an outlier.
look who's on the other side all year.
Right.
Plays a big role.
And that's, look,
Plays a big role.
the thing about great organizations is great organizations know when to walk
Exactly.
away.
Except for the case of Brian Dawkins.
That was right. You're right about that.
That's the only time this organization fumbled what you're talking about.
And they learned from it.
Because even Fletcher Cox, I agree. And I'm even glad that Kelsey retired when he did. Because it
Yeah,
let
yeah.
Jurgen step in, and hey, look, he's a Super Bowl champion
He didn't
now.
miss a beat, and he was
No.
like all pro level. He didn't
know.
miss a beat.
But you're right. They've timed it right with almost everybody they've done that with.
Yeah.
Slay included, except for B-Dog.
Except for B-Dog. I totally agree. The conversation that I can't walk away from, I can't get away from it because now that I've seen it in my mind, I can't escape it. And
What is bogging you down?
when I see people talking about, we won the Super Bowl without him and we don't need, I can't just leave alone Myles Garrett. I can't leave it alone.
Yeah,
I can't leave
right.
it alone.
I mean, look, if you bring him Baum back, and if you add Garrett,
You put Garrett on a line with Carter and Smith, it is unstoppable.
Nobody's stopping
It's a
you.
nightmare for the rest of the league. And
well, all right. So what's it going to take if you're Howie?
I took a
What are you
deeper
getting
dive.
on the phone and saying to the Browns GM?
Well, here we go. I took a deeper dive into the salary cap ramifications for both of us in the Browns.
He's going to want $200 million.
It was too crazy, and I'd be sitting here with numbers, and I don't want to bog down. I'm just going to say that because of the Browns salary cap situation, by the way, not so dissimilar from ours, they can't do this deal till after June 1st. If this deal would happen, it would most likely happen after June 1st.
In the summertime.
So that means this draft would be completely unaffected. This draft, they have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 3 5s. That's
Right.
not going to change.
Right.
The draft
Future
compensation-
draft picks is what you would be.
Yeah, and you right now you have 7 picks. Knowing Howie, he'll trade out of the first into the second for value, and probably pick up another pick later on.
Right.
He'll and then move back, and he'll turn 7 picks into 9 picks. I mean, that's what Howie's going to do. That's what he does.
And he has flexibility to move up a few spots if they have a guy that fell that they like.
Yes,
That they
like
rated
he did with
higher.
DeJean. That's what they'll do.
Yeah, DeJean at 40, right?
Right. So the draft compensation in a deal for Garrett, it would be next year's picks that we would be talking about. And if you remember, Khalil Mack, when he got traded along with a second-round pick and a conditional pick that turned into a 7th-round pick for 2 1s, a 3, and a 6.
Right.
Khalil Mack was also 2.5 years younger than Myles Garrett.
Those ages at that position, it makes a difference.
It does. But when I look at what the Eagles did at the Combine, they happened to meet with a lot of guys that are rated between the 3rd and the 5th round. I don't know if that was by accident. Howie's looking at like a lot of guys that they looked at.
Yeah.
Were somewhere in that case. Now, they did look at, which raised my eyebrows a little bit, and I'm going to get to this. The Eagles looked at 2 big run-stopping defensive tackles.
Well, because they're probably planning on losing Williams.
But not Milton Williams-style defensive tackles.
Right.
Like Jordan Davis run-stopper defensive tackles.
Right.
And this is Jordan Davis's last year on his contract.
I did see that.
So the framework of a deal could look something like next year's 1, you have multiple 3s, so a 1, a 3, and Jordan Davis for Myles Garrett.
I don't know that they would do that, but sign me up. if they did.
I mean, Jordan Davis.
I think it's going to take
for Cleveland.
It's going to take 2 ones to pry Garrett because they don't want to trade him. It's going to take 2 ones. Whoever gets Myles Garrett, and we'll talk about in the summer after it happens.
The age thing for me, and the fact that
he's only 29, right?
Yeah, he'll turn 30 during the year.
Okay, but still, he's only 30 years old. I mean, think back to being 30 years old.
No, I get it. But in trade compensation,
I hear you.
He's turned 30, and he's not negotiating with you.
So you're going to give them a young defensive tackle that has kind of proven himself as capable, where they can sign him and a first and a third.
Moro Ajomo had a higher snap count.
Moro Ajomo, and don't forget about Booker on that line, too.
Well, that's why Milton Williams, he's out of there.
He's expendable because they have guys.
They have Ajomo and Booker,
they can step in,
and they'll draft.
And they're going to draft. And hey, look, Howie likes to sign people after the initial wave of free agency has gone.
Right.
And guys sit, and the value, it's kind of like, it's similar. It's funny, I think back to real estate as a realtor. The longer a house is on the market, the cheaper I can get it from my buyer.
Yes.
Howie's the same with the player.
Myles Garrett has tied their hands. So the timeline, and I'm sure everybody knows this, but let me just repeat it, that the Myles Garrett requested to be traded. Then the Browns said, well, we're not trading you. Then the Browns stepped to his agent and said, we want to negotiate to make him one of the highest paid players in the NFL. Yeah. And he said, no, I'm not negotiating.
We don't want to negotiate.
I'm slamming the door. I want out. It's not about the money. I want to win.
And you saw what they did today?
They restructured Deshaun Watson's contract.
Yes.
They opened up that money, and they're trying to step in and offer Myles Garrett more money than Max Crosby.
I'm going to give you an offer you can't refuse.
So for all the people, by the way, that say, well, it's too, look at what Max Crosby just got. There's no way we're going to pay him
How absurd is that?
Yeah. And the fact that it pushes Myles Garrett now to being the 6th highest paid defensive end when he's clearly the best defensive end in football.
When I saw that Max Crosby number, it's probably like $50 million higher than it should be overall.
Right. Yeah. But my thought was it's like you're okay with losing as long as you're getting paid. It's like a loser kind of mentality. You're okay with staying on a loser.
Right.
All I heard was Max Crosby, he wanted to win, and he doesn't want to win.
No.
He wants to be paid.
Because he doesn't worry about winning. When he's done, he's going to be on TV. And
right. So
one of those players that never won a ring that happens to be on TV all the time.
Myles Garrett, you're not signing Garrett to a contract as a free agent. That's completely different when you have to sign a guy and give him some huge deal.
Yeah.
No. You are extending him, and you're dealing with Howie Roseman, the master of extensions.
Right. They give the signing bonuses is how they get these guys to agree to these low yearly numbers.
Yes. And then I was looking at how, for instance, they showed somebody, I don't forget who it was. I wish I knew because I'd love to shout him out. He did a breakdown of how the contract for Baun works and how he spread it out, and it's like genius.
Yeah.
How the cap hit's low this year, it's low next year, and then in 2 years it's really high, and in the voidable year, it's at its highest, which lets you know by the time he's 30, 31, or whenever that is, when he's 30,
it's structured that way.
He'll be a cap casualty at that point if he's not giving you all pro vibes. So
he's in the prime of his career right now.
He builds in bonuses. It's like, $17 million a year, but then you look at it and it's like, well, actually, it's like $6 million here, and then this bonus is $4 million, and this bonus is $3 million. He's like, he the way it is genius. The way he just manipulates the CBA, and.
Absolutely. Now teams are starting to copy him, if you notice.
Yeah, look, Dallas just did it with Dak Prescott.
Why wouldn't they? And they did it with CeeDee Lamb as well.
Yeah, Dak Prescott had one of the craziest cap hits in the NFL this year next to Deshaun Watson, and he got restructured, so it opens up cap money.
Because Dallas, even though you have old man Jones still steering the ship, they know.
Well, they hired a guy who's copying. He said he was going to copy the Eagles.
And if they want to compete with the Birds and now Washington in our division, because we are the 2 clear-cut front runners in the NFC East, they had to do that restructure because they're not going to be able to compete. Dak Prescott, regardless, is not a winner, so it doesn't really matter until they get a real winning quarterback in there. He's like a Dan Marino, Phillip Rivers mold.
Yes,
is what he is, and they were great. But they never won anything.
They never won anything.
And Dak is never going to win anything.
Howie knows how to spread the money out and soften the cap hit. So for everybody who either doesn't believe that it's possible or is just dead set against it,
Yeah.
I would say to you, you're wrong, and it's entirely possible.
Absolutely. Look, this guy has earned our trust. If you're a fan and you're complaining in any way about releasing Slay and then, oh, well, they signed Baun. I wanted them to bring Sweat back. Just be quiet and let the man work because you have a draft and free agency, but people forget because they get so excited in its instant gratification world. You know, you might not get the big splash between March 10th and March 20th. You might have to wait a little bit. That's why he said at the press conference, said, "Be patient with us. You're gonna like what we do." Is how I read that.
Yeah,
but it might not be immediate,
and it might not be conventional, which signals another thing. You know, hey, we might actually do what I don't like to do and what I don't normally do, which is, you know, give a running back big money, give a linebacker big money, and maybe trade some picks for a big player.
If they added Myles Garrett to this defense, and you're pretty much bringing back your entire offense intact, even if it's Steen, even if whatever, then you're ready. You could theoretically you would need no more moves.
I'll take it further. Exactly. I'll take it further. If you give me Myles Garrett on this defense, you can start Ringo. You can have Ringo and Quignon.
Right.
I'll leave you alone.
Well, Ringo,
I won't say anything bad about it.
And Ringo ran, people forget, he ran the fastest 40 at his combine.
Yeah. Look, I like Ringo. I like him as a special teamer and as a rotational corner, but like I'm not there. He's not like a starting caliber corner.
I think they're going to sign Rodgers. I think they're going to do it.
But if you give me Myles Garrett,
I
I will accept Ringo as a starter and not give you any flack for it.
Because what that's going to do is that's going to make, no matter who the corners are, it's going to make them look better anyway.
Exactly. Hey, look, people want to act like this is, they won a Super Bowl without it. It's like, I can't, now that I've envisioned it, I can't let it go.
I got news for you, though, Tek. It's going to take 2 ones to get Myles Garrett.
Yeah, then I'll do it. I'd
25,
rather do
26, 27. It would take both of those ones.
Do it.
I would too. You know why? Because you're trying to become a dynasty.
Yes.
And they have a window to become a dynasty.
And
Tek.
I heard what Marcus, said from the Inquirer, where he said, well, look, right now, up to now, look at the last 4 years, Howie's been betting on himself. If he goes out and pays Myles Garrett and gives up all this for Myles Garrett, then he's not betting on himself anymore. He's betting on Myles Garrett. It's like, you can say that.
They can both exist in the same universe.
It's like, I understand what that thought process, but like, this is what Howie and the Eagles, in particular the Eagles, do better than any other team in this city. Like, the things that this teams in this city don't do is they don't typically admit mistakes and change philosophy.
Right.
They don't do it.
Howie has done that. He has reinvented himself multiple times.
The Sixers don't do it. The Flyers aren't good enough for it to matter either way, and the Phillies don't do it. So, like, when I look at the Eagles are willing to say, okay, we just gave this defensive end $51 million, and now we're only a month or two into this contract. We're in training camp, and we know we made a mistake.
Right.
And our defensive coordinator isn't outright saying we made a mistake, but when you ask him a question about, is this guy ready to play, and he says no, he's telling you you made a mistake. And then what do? We put him out on the field for 4 weeks, and guess what? After a month, when we come out of that bye week, you don't really see him ever again.
Right.
So that's them admitting they made a mistake, and they switched up. They never paid linebackers. What do? They got this Zach Baun guy for nothing. He comes in, he has an all-pro year, and they pay him.
You know what? People have to realize that since the Jalen Hurts draft pick, that Howie has hit on probably like 70 to 75% of the overall picks in the last 4+ drafts.
It's fantastic.
And that's not going to stop.
Job. No, he's done a fantastic job.
That's not going to stop. Whoever they take at 32, if they stay at 32, is going to be a player.
This is a Jeffrey Lurie thing. You know, last year when they collapsed, I went on a whole thing. The psychology of Jeffrey Lurie and how Chip Kelly affected him.
You did.
And I really, and look, the way they changed their method of thinking just shortly after that has been astounding. It's been fantastic. Teams don't do that. He did. He wants to win that bad.
He wants to win another Super Bowl.
And like you said with the
every
drafting,
year.
Like the guy the Bengals GM, he's got like 9 people. He's got a 9-person staff.
Right.
The Eagles have like 160 people
Right.
in that staff. They have a full analytics department with like 40 people that's headed by his son. But look, we can't even diss that anymore. It works.
It works. Look,
it works.
The proof is in the pudding. I mean, sure, nepotism sometimes that will be glaringly, obviously a bad call.
Yes.
But based on the merits of the product.
Nah, the kid was smart. He was a whiz kid. He said this is important, and he proved it. And Howie said, "Yeah, you know what? Look."
Yeah.
He looked at Jeffrey and said, "You know what? This makes sense."
Yeah.
And they got that going. Howie and Jeffrey Lurie, because there's no salary cap for staff. Jeffrey Lurie paid all these different scouts and consultants and people that knew what they were talking about. And I mean, he just wants to win so bad, and that's what I love. And I didn't feel that necessarily last year, especially during the collapse when it felt like, here we go with the stubborn, not willing to change, not willing, sticking to their philosophy. That's changed. They signed Saquon Barkley for a crazy amount of money last year, which really ended up being a bargain, and then gave him a boatload after a historic showing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very much well-earned. And what that does, too, psychologically, now when you look at this core on offense, these guys know that they're going to be compensated properly.
And around the league.
Yeah.
I heard that sentiment, but it's so true. It's worth repeating.
It's worth it for team psychology, man. That's a valuable thing.
Howie, it's not, to me, this was no coincidence. They could have waited to do this.
Right.
They did it a week before free agency so that every other free agent that's entering free agency is looking at the Eagles going, damn,
well,
if we go there and we perform, we'll get paid.
And they already want to come here anyway. We have one of the winningest quarterbacks in the league the last 4 seasons, a guy that has won two conference titles in 4 seasons starting, and now just beat the modern day GOAT and boat raced him out the building in a Super Bowl. So guys are going to want to come here anyway, and then what you're saying is just icing and sprinkles on the cake.
Yeah, because guys are motivated by seeing how and look, when it comes to organizations, this is a class. You know, what did Stephen A. call
For
him?
a quarter century.
Stephen A. called him the gold standard.
They're a quarter century deep of winning football.
It really is.
The old narrative from when we were kids about Eagles never win, they'll never win a chip, they're one of the worst franchises in football, that narrative is long gone.
Right. Because, and this is my problem with Middleton, and we'll get to this. Lurie's not like that. Middleton talks like Lurie. He talks the big game. But he don't put his money where his mouth is. Lurie does. Lurie's with a salary cap. Lurie's not afraid to go, is that what it takes? Then let's make it happen.
Let's do it.
How we make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Figure
Howie
it
will
out.
go, okay,
Figure
well, I'm going
it
to have
out.
to do this, and that. And Jeffrey Lurie goes, then do it.
Yeah.
Because, that's what I need.
If you don't have that cohesion between GM and owner, which a lot of teams struggle to find that, and they kind of search for it by running through guy after guy after guy, and they force it, like the New York Giants, for example.
Oh, my God.
And then you see what you get. And in a game like football, it's so different than baseball, basketball, because those are team sports, yes, but an individual can transcend in one of those games, baseball, football, baseball, and basketball.
You're right.
And that's
yes.
it. In football,
an
individual can
11 guys.
Only the quarterback can really do that.
Right.
In football.
Yes.
You know, or maybe a defensive end, I guess. But that's about it. It's different. So the cohesion they have, teams just generally cannot find that.
No, it's so important.
Because ego plays a role. These guys, they love each other. It's different.
Yeah, you're right.
There's like a true family and nature about this front office.
And Howie said something last week before he did the Saquon and before he did the Baun deal. He went on some show. I don't know if it was NFL Network or he went. I think it was the Todd McShay show. He went on one of these shows, and they said, "Well, what's it take? You know, for you to do signings? Like, what do you have? How do you identify guys that you want to bring in?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, first off, I gotta like them.
Exactly.
They gotta be likable guys.
They're gonna be working here.
Around.
They're gonna be working here.
So." When he gives Saquon the big money, I'm like, yeah, of course. Saquon's one of the most likable guys on the planet.
And not only that, how about that
guy.
mic'd up from the Super Bowl? Wasn't that great? How he was telling everybody to stay here, stay right here. They're up 24-0. He's like, yo, stay right here.
Right.
That's what you want because we're thinking that as fans.
Yeah.
And a lot of times
Exactly.
teams don't do that, and they blow
No.
like the Falcons in the Super Bowl a couple years back,
Oh, yeah,
28-3. Because there was also another clip of the Chiefs players saying, "Hey, the Falcons led the Brady and the Patriots like 28-3 at one point. You know, we could do this, And I'm watching that just the next day or so. I'm thinking, like,
Oh, I
this is
saw that clip, and I'm like, oh,
hilarious.
no. Yeah.
Pipe dream.
And then Zach Baun. Zach Baun's another one. This guy's one of the most likable guys.
I
What
know.
a nice guy this guy is.
He is.
So it's no
Yeah.
coincidence to me that Howie says this, and then he signs two of the most likable guys
They're
in the locker room.
they're character individuals.
Yeah.
They're good men. And
look who he locked up already. He was quick to lock up Mailata and Landon Dickerson, two other of the nicest, gentle guys. And then Jalen Hurts, another guy who's like Kobe in a way with that mentality.
There's a reason why Michael Jordan signed Jalen Hurts. And I know
absolutely
in the mainstream and the national thinking, even now.
Oh, that it's a black quarterback. It's not just that.
No, not that. I'm saying even now related to Jalen Hurts' ranking among the other quarterbacks.
Oh, right.
Even now after what he just did, leading an offense to the most points in the history of the league in the postseason, number one.
Yeah.
And knocking off, probably the third best quarterback of all time if you're going Brady, Montana, Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think that's an arguable list.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even now, and him being 6-1 against the top elite quarterbacks in the league in his career, only winning and going to 2 Super Bowls, people will still put Justin Herbert above him.
And one guy, the CBS guy, what a moron, he said him and Trevor Lawrence are even.
What an wow!
I never seen
how
anything
out
like
of
this.
touch can you be with reality?
It makes me think. Do you cover this? I mean, what am I listen.
Jalen Hurts just made every throw in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Every throw.
I don't know what more anybody.
Timing throws, tight window throws, deep balls, check downs,
we
scrambles
said
when
this
he
a few
needs
weeks
to.
ago. I'll say it again. I believe, and Jalen Hurts, look,
He kind of proved you wrong a little bit, too, because earlier in the year, you were off the train a little bit.
I am now of a different way of thinking of he has reinvented
He's got the eye of the tiger, man. He's got the Philadelphia eye of the tiger.
In a way where it's like, look, I get it. Josh Allen and Herbert and all these guys, and Burrow
and Lamar.
They do the stereotypical, prototypical quarterback things.
Right.
I get that.
Right. And people fall in love with that.
And they're like an elite level of doing those quarterback things. But like to me, I'm of the mindset that the number one statistic and value of a quarterback is winning.
That's it. And you know what? A lot of times, these teams that have the top-ranked passing offense, they do not win Super Bowls.
No! Burrow, oh my God.
You have to be a balanced football team. And more importantly, you have to be a balanced offense. The reason why Saquon just ran for 2,000 yards, partially, is because Jalen Hurts is his quarterback.
Yeah.
It would have been maybe 1,700 on a different team.
And another big thing is the offensive line. Look around the league. The only one who understands the assignment is Ben Johnson. He had Detroit. They had a comparable offensive line to ours, so he understood. When he gets to Chicago, the first moves he makes.
Yeah.
2 offensive linemen. Let's go get the guy from the Rams. Let's go get Joe Tooney. He knew that the only way we got a young quarterback. I'm watching the film, and I'm seeing anytime he's got a guy open, he's getting sacked. And why is that? Because he has zero protection. And when he does have time, the kid can make plays.
Speaking of Ben Johnson, the Lions their arrow is down to me. 2 reasons.
Yeah, I mean,
2 reasons. Goff,
he's a big reason.
Goff is not a big game quarterback. He's going into his 10th season. He has shown you who he is.
Yep.
A Tiger after 10 years doesn't change the stripes, especially not in the NFL. All right, people are going to say,
especially in the NFL.
People are going to say, well, Matt Stafford did it. Yeah, well, Jared Goff is not Matt Stafford, number one.
No.
And secondly, another reason is because the play calling, Ben Johnson really is a phenomenal play caller.
He's a brilliant guy.
They still have Jahmyr
coach.
Gibbs. You could almost fall off of a bus, hit your head, and still call a game with Jahmyr Gibbs on the field.
You could.
But I think it's going to be different because now there's even more on tape about what the Lions do. And I'm not sold on them in January being able to get it done in the big moment. They can't.
No, I'm not
They don't
either.
do it. With Jared Goff as the quarterback, they will not win a championship.
I agree with you on that. I think they're still a top team, but I agree.
They're a top 5 conference team.
Yeah, I think the Commanders are closer at this point.
The Commanders are closer because they have a quarterback.
And they got
be clutch.
And they're all like, oh, Debo, who's going to stop this trio? I'm like, look, the 49ers thought so little of Deebo Samuel that
took a
they
fifth.
gave him away for nothing in conference.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like Deebo Samuel, he's chronically out of shape,
Right.
and he's always hurt.
Here's another thing, too, and I know that Commanders fans...
But he is great when he's healthy.
He is, but Commanders fans aren't going to want to come to grips with the reality that very frequently in NFL history, I'd be curious to chart this, when a rookie quarterback comes in, has a phenomenal rookie year.
How many times do they have a sophomore slump?
That's step back that second year, because now there's a whole season of tape and a whole offseason for defensive coordinators to study that tape.
Jalen Hurts, his first
It
real
happens
year.
to hitters, too, in baseball.
Right. Jalen Hurts had that MVP year. That was his second year. But, he
Right.
had the MVP year.
And then a
it
big
was
step
all on
back.
tape, and then it was a step back.
And now he is
somewhere
now,
in the middle.
Now the curve is curving back up for him because
Yeah, it is.
He's figured out what he's best at, and
He's also figured out
the decision making is everything.
Yes, he's gotten. And by the way,
But
I
we
still
foresaw
maintain,
that him getting better with that.
And I think some of the stuff was coached out of him. He kind of let it seep back in, and it had to be coached out of him again. And part of that was getting Saquon Barkley and eliminating some of that.
Right.
So that's like, all right, we're going to limit your decision making.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
limit what
and
you
now,
are
though,
going to do.
I trust Jalen so much at the line of scrimmage
Yeah,
before
he
a
reads
play.
defenses pretty elite now.
He changed to a few of those big, long touchdown runs from Saquon
Yes, he
with
did.
Jalen audibles.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen with some
He
quarterbacks.
saw what was going on. He saw where guys were on one side, and he looked at it, and he could change the play.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he hands it off, and Saquon's
Yeah.
gone.
And then on the flip side, same thing with the gunshot to AJ.
Yeah,
I mean,
was
look,
tremendous.
that's like playing Madden. You're going hot route, you boom,
Yep.
gunshot, and he hits him
And he hits him.
because it's a timing route, back shoulder. That was a Peyton Manning throw.
By the way, the delusional Patriots media and fan base
I am so fed up already with
thinking
these
that they
idiots.
that AJ Brown is quote unquote gettable.
They're drunk-lusional. That's a new phrase, a new word I coined for these idiots. Drunk-lusional.
Yeah, I mean, I was arguing with one guy back and forth.
Me too.
And it was like, I'm telling you, he was like, "Oh, you're in the anger stage of grief." I'm like, dude,
They're so
you are
detached from
the
reality.
desperation. It's
AJ's not going anywhere. He's here. He's locked up. There's no way. Howie would never tear apart this offense like
Plus,
that.
by the way, that dead cap hit would be too severe.
They're
to
18-0
take.
last year with AJ on the field.
I know. This is, you know what I'm saying?
What are we talking about here?
Nonsense. is what
18-0.
we're talking
They're
about.
undefeated. When Jalen and AJ started and finished a game, they were undefeated,
Right.
including the playoffs and the Super Bowl. That's all I need to hear. As long as they don't, suffer massive injuries in preseason or, lose a lineman to a big injury like a Juergens or a Lane or a Mailata, then even if they lose Saquon for a game or two, if they lose Devontae or AJ for a game or two, or even Jalen for a game or two, the
Yeah.
train will keep moving.
It will, to
You
some
know?
extent.
Because I think Pickett is actually going to be even better if he has to come in this year than he was last year. I think that he was serviceable against Washington, a big interception early.
I didn't like Pickett a whole lot, but I admit, I'm
How
fine with Pickett.
How about Tanner McKee being part of a package?
Well,
to try
yeah, I
to
would
get
do
Garrett,
that.
to try to get Garrett.
But every time I see other people, they're like, "Oh, who's taking Tanner McKee?" It's like, well, look, I would.
He's got value.
He's got
that
value.
That kid can
He's
start.
got second round
He can
pick
start
value.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
Tanner McKee can start for I
agree
like
with
a I don't know, a Tennessee.
Yeah.
Or who's another team? It's a New York Giants team.
See, the reason why he doesn't work here, even though I really like him, and I know, he's a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. I think he's a better passer than Hurts. But
It's close. I mean, I don't know.
Here's
It's
why
close.
here's why he doesn't work here. Because he's probably the best pure passer because he has to be. He's got no legs. He's got nothing else.
Prototypical Stanford
Yeah.
quarterback,
He's-
6'5".
He's got all he's
White.
got is his arm and his quick release. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's all he's got.
Yeah.
So that's why he's so good at it. But that doesn't work in our system.
No.
Since the 80s, we are a running quarterback system.
We are. When we're
and it's
successful,
just
we
what
are.
It is.
Yeah.
That's just who we are.
It's phenomenal. It's remarkable that Jaws even existed here.
Yeah, and Pickett can move.
He can.
So
He can.
that's and
that was his bread and butter at
and
Pitt.
Tanner McKee can't. So
No, yeah.
So I look at it like yes, Pickett might have value too. By the way,
True.
Anybody
True.
who comes to the Philadelphia Eagles for a year or two leaves worth more
Isn't that
than
wild?
they were
I
when they
know.
came.
I know. And it's the reverse on other teams,
That's it.
like the Raiders and the Jets.
Hargrave, he came here. He had a nice deal. He left on a massive deal to the 49ers.
Yeah.
They just cut him. I bet you his next
Yeah.
deal is not going to be what the deal was when he left
They
Philadelphia.
signed him to a 3-year, right? He played 2 of them.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I hear grumblings on X about bring Hargrave back.
No, he can't stop the
think,
run.
You know what I think, Tech? I think, in my opinion, I wouldn't do anything in free agency at defensive tackle. I would draft, if you keep your 32nd pick, I would draft the best defensive tackle at 32, and then I would spend a little money or trade for edge rusher, and I would bring Isaiah Rodgers back. And
Yeah,
then
I
you're
would
pretty
too.
much like ready to go. And then you're filling in holes here and there, but then you're ready to go.
I think they're thin at safety too, but look.
Yeah, we didn't talk about safety. Well, I mean, you got Reed and CJ, but there's not much behind that.
No,
McCollum is probably not a guy.
I think McCollum and Sidney Brown, right?
Sidney Brown could be a guy.
I think McCollum can tackle and he can't cover, and then Sidney Brown can't tackle well and he can cover.
He's a little too aggressive sometimes.
Yeah, and he can't really stay on the field either.
Say they're gonna draft a safety. I think maybe in a 3rd or 4th round. I could see them taking a safety in a 3rd or 4th round because you're right. You're right.
I'll be reading the tea leaves when Cleveland's on the board, because if Cleveland goes Abdul Carter, we are in play.
Garrett's gone.
Miles Garrett is in
Garrett's
play.
gone, yeah.
And then if we, with our first pick, go DT, it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong if that happens.
Hey, man.
I'm in.
I'm really on board with just taking the best defensive tackle at 32.
Or edge. Look, if it's not going to be Miles Garrett, if they're out on
Then,
Garrett,
you take an edge
then you go
rusher there.
edge,
Yeah.
because
If you're not going to sign a guy.
it's out of all the positions in the draft, it's the best edge rushers draft this year.
They could come out of this offseason with 2 new edge rushers.
You go.
Meaning free agency and draft.
I like this guy Jack Sawyer from Ohio State's intriguing, but Darius Alexander from Toledo, he's intriguing.
Yeah.
And then they looked at this the Cam Jackson, this defensive tackle, who's really huge.
Yeah.
And then they got offensive tackles that they're looking at. They looked at Anthony Belton. I think they take an OT.
Yeah.
Anthony Belton, this guy's 6'6", 350 or whatever.
Sounds like he fits in on the Eagles O-line.
They call him Escalade. He's huge, and his pro comp is Becton. He is that kind of guy.
Well, we're so spoiled, man.
Right. There's also a more athletic offensive tackle named Charles Grant who is moving
I haven't
up the
done a lot
boards.
of draft research quite yet.
He's a William and Mary guy. Like I said, and we'll talk about the Phils in a second, but there's live action Phil stuff going on, and I'm so disinterested. I am locked in to what the Eagles are going to do.
Right.
And I'm looking at all these drafts because I don't watch as much college football these days as I used to.
Me neither.
So this is the time of year where I am looking at names. And I'm looking at where they're ranked, and then I start looking at videos of them, and then reading about them from the scouts.
Of course, me too.
And then I'll go and I'll
usually
actually,
the first week of April, though.
Yeah, I'll look at the combine report. I'll look at who the Eagles met with, and then I'll go, okay, I saw this guy, and I read his already, and then I'll see this guy. Who's this?
Yeah.
Who's this now?
New name.
A new name. So
right.
then I'll do it. It all starts over again. So I'm getting familiar with a lot of these guys, and to me, they can get an edge. They can get a defensive tackle. They can get an offensive tackle. There's this kid, Terrence Ferguson, tight end. They can go tight end. It's a deep running back class, so you can use one of your 5s on a running back.
Speaking of tight end, there's a guy from LSU that I'm hearing about from some of my friends in the business, Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor's another one.
LSU. My guy Jeff wants him to take Mason Taylor.
He probably will be around. Mason Taylor will be there. Terrence Ferguson is who they met with that I know they like, and he's kind of a hot name too. So yeah, Mason Taylor's another one, but a lot of people are talking about him.
SEC.
A lot of people are talking about him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys, and
what a time to be alive, Tech.
Yes, as we get closer to the draft, we're just gonna rattle off all these names. And look, free agency starts next week's show is going to be all about what the Eagles did or didn't do.
So
what's
exciting
going on.
already.
Yeah,
we just won a Super Bowl and had a parade, and here
it's
we are
already
talking about the defense, the most important defensive piece, is already re-signed. Now, what is our guy Howie going to do next?
Yes, I'm on Myles Garrett watch, even though I know, like I said, it's most likely not happening until June 1st. But look, I'm locked in. I really, really, really like Jalix Hunt. I just don't think he's ready to be a starter across from Nolan Smith yet. I look at Jalix as a guy like I look at Ajomo. Ajomo's first year, he showed that he can play, but last year he showed he could take over for Milton Williams. And that's why they're like, yeah, Milton can go. Ajomo is ready to take that spot.
Right. Ajomo has a lot of dog in him.
I need a really great second year out of Jalix Hunt. And then I'll be ready for Jalix Hunt to be a guy who could start. But right now, he's a rotation guy.
You can't go into the season like that yet.
No.
They're going to have to add someone to complement that other side there.
Right, and same thing with, like, Dean might not be ready to start the year. So, I don't know if they're going to bring Oren Burks back, but people are like, oh, well,
I would bring Burks back on a 1 year,
I would do it.
2 year, $8 million.
And people are like, oh, you could just get Trot back there. Same thing about Trot.
Oren Burks played well in the playoffs.
Trot could not get on the field because of Oren Burks.
I think the kid Oren Burks is a player.
He is a player.
I think he's a value signing. I would bring him back too.
Not only was there no drop off when Dean got hurt, he played.
He played well. Look, and him and Baun are comfortable together. They just won a Super Bowl together.
Yes.
I mean, it was Burks for the whole playoffs with Baun.
Yes.
And they were locked down with the exception of the fourth quarter against the Rams. They were locked down.
Yes.
Really,
I agree.
the whole postseason.
So
just wow. It still feels surreal what we just witnessed.
I know. It really is. We're champions.
I still got things arriving to the house. Super Bowl champion things. There's been things arriving every week since.
I hear you. I'm still riding the high. I'm not ready to switch hats. I'm still in Eagles mode. And
but we got to talk some Phils.
We are going to talk. There's a lot of questions in the air with the Eagles, and we'll get more answers as the weeks come, as the months come. But like free agency, the tampering period starts Monday, and
the biggest oxymoron in the history of words. Legal tampering.
Yes, the legal tampering period begins. So Monday and Tuesday, deals are going to start being announced, and Wednesday they're going to be signed, sealed, and delivered.
Fast tortoise.
Yeah,
I can just think of good oxymorons all day.
Legal tampering.
Quiet stereo.
Yes, this is what that is. It is an oxymoron, but it's hey. It's a big time in the NFL.
It is.
It really is.
That's when the guys can really start working their angles, sending some text messages.
And that's when Howie's going to start to see what guys are
come over on this side, will you?
Yeah, Monday might be, even though it's just legal tampering, it might give Howie some idea of who's offering Becton what, who's offering Rodgers what, who's offering Burks what.
And Saquon will pop in the office like, yo, look who I'm texting.
Right.
Jalen will pop in, look who I'm texting.
That stuff, listen.
These things happen.
That stuff, I know.
These things happen.
Like, Jalen and AJ, you know what I mean?
These are some of the most sought-after players in the NFL.
You're right.
And the most respected and talented in the NFL. Why wouldn't you want a chance to play with them?
It's true. All right, let's talk a little spring training.
Spring baseball.
It's in full effect, Prem, and for me the vibes are awful. I just couldn't be less excited.
I know. It's hard to get excited
right
in
now.
March, man. It's hard to get excited in March.
Look, I love this time of year when baseball starts. Just being a diehard Philly sports guy. Any team, unless it's the Sixers right now, any team. I'm watching the Flyers. The Flyers struggle to be above 500.
But they are a 500
team.
Make the playoffs, though.
Right, but I watch them because they're interesting. There's something interesting about they have this kid Mitch Goff who night after night is becoming a superstar, and I find that to be interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
Was he 19 years old, Mitch Goff?
Yeah, he's a young guy. And
do you remember being 19?
Barely. I do
too.
actually.
I kind of remember.
Yeah, it was kind of a blur. I was smoking a lot of weed at that point.
Me too. Big time blur.
But
cloudy blur.
I find something interesting about the Flyers enough to put up with the fact that they're just a perennial 500 club right now, and they're just going to have to work, and this may or may not be their year.
1976?
Was that the last?
Last cup.
Well, look, I agree with Haley Simon when she said that it's almost better that they don't make the playoffs. And I get this.
I hear you. I just hate that mentality.
I know. I get that too. But
I like the experience mentality. I get that experience.
Yeah, I just I feel like they need a better pick. And
does it make that much of a difference?
I think it
in
will.
Hockey?
I mean,
I don't know enough about hockey drafts to be honest, man.
If they finish 500, I don't know what difference it would make.
Because if you make the playoffs, at very minimum,
I get what you're saying.
You're the 15th or 16th pick if you make the playoffs.
So they'll get eliminated in the first round, but that's not really
between
the point.
12
to
15 is 12 to 15 that big of a difference?
It starts the mentality of like getting on a mission.
Like, hey, we made the playoffs last year. Let's take the next step next year.
Yes,
Like,
you get knocked out in the first
that's
round.
That's kind of what I'm going for.
You know what? You're not wrong about that.
It's a tricky one.
But I say all that to say, I'm not interested in what the Phillies are bringing me this year. For example, right? And it's not all about just the players. I am not happy that you're giving me the same guys that have failed 3 years in a row. And failed the same way. Like I'm not.
They said this about the 80 team. They lost 3 straight years in the playoffs.
But you didn't give me a Pete Rose. You didn't add a Pete
all right,
Rose.
that's fair. I was getting to that. They didn't make us. Well, they brought Luzardo, which is not comparable.
Right. So, like, you're giving me a Kepler, and I'm not dissing Kepler.
He hit a home run yesterday.
I know. Look,
Kepler goes God.
Kepler,
back to back.
I'm not dissing him. I think he's a nice player. Hopefully, he's better than Merrifield. He's Merrifield and Hayes 2.5. So, like, I look at it like he could be better than them, and that's all I need him
Kepler,
to do.
No, I think he is. I think he's a really good ball player.
Right. But, like,
not a star, though.
It's not just about the players, because, I'll get to that in a second. Bryce Harper told the front office that he was willing to move back to the outfield if they wanted to go after a slugger first baseman.
Yes.
Christian Walker, Goldschmidt, Pete Alonso.
Walker would have been the guy to get.
They were all available.
Walker would have been the guy to get.
John Middleton closed the wallet.
Christian Walker is a really good baseball player.
Right. Middleton closed the wallet. He closed the wallet. And he said, well, we have all these high-priced guys, but he didn't say that to us. What he made it seem like, well, look, we evaluate everything, and we keep our minds open. No, you didn't. You might have kept your minds open. You kept your wallet closed.
Dombrowski
you didn't put your money where your mouth is.
For me, they're teetering on the edge of, I'm going to start saying that they're ineffective soon.
Yes.
Not this year. I'm going to give them this year.
This is it.
The team's going to look a lot different next year.
Yeah, Prem, this is it. I'm getting to that, right?
Schwarber's probably gone.
Well, look. Middleton talks a big game. It's all talk. I'm not a big fan of Dombrowski, but like you said, he's being handicapped by this owner right now. This is becoming an inept situation in the front office.
I mean, look at the Dodgers, for crying out loud.
That's the way you got to do it. There's no salary cap in baseball. You got to spend money.
And the Padres, too.
Yeah. This is it.
Padres got Arias. I mean, that's a big acquisition last year.
Yes, it is. So they doubled down on this team last year, and they tripled down on it this year. So, for me, this is it, Prem. This is it. This is the last year with this group of guys for me. JT, Castellanos, Schwarber, Marsh. This is it for me with those guys.
JT, and Schwarber are almost for sure gone next year.
And I want Marsh gone too. These guys,
Marsh, I don't know. Marsh, it depends this year. Depends.
For all of them. Because the only way, you know what? If Schwarber has some monster year, yeah, let's extend him. But like if he maintains the same numbers as they have throughout this whole stretch, then you might have to. You might have to because he's just so much.
If
of a
he's going to hit 40
hitter.
home runs, and he'll have 100 RBIs this time around because he's going to be hitting the 4-hole, probably.
Yeah.
Finally. It just makes sense. If you go walk single,
I'm flip-flopping on
in the first inning though, you go walk single and then a strikeout, and then Schwarber comes up with a 3-run home run.
I'm reverse flip-flopping. At first, I wanted it to be Stott or Turner, a leadoff spot.
But you see a strikeout with Turner leading off strikeout. That's what you're saying.
I see Schwarber batting cleanup in a tough clutch spot
and leading off
striking out.
No, you see Schwarber leading off the second inning too much.
With that
instead of leading off the first.
But that too,
because they go 1, 2, 3.
If that's happening, this is a failure.
Schwarber leading off the second inning.
It's a failure,
not the first.
Because
inning.
by the way, I know it's spring training and it means nothing.
I'm being a bit extreme.
But
whole point, they're a good club.
The whole point of Trey Turner moving to the leadoff for me is taking a humongous amount of pressure and weight off of his shoulders. Okay, before you were put in a position where a guy's on base, and now you got to do something.
Yeah.
Now you're leading off.
Just
you just got to get on base.
Well, that's what Trey is. That player,
right?
He's that prototypical leadoff guy.
I'm still seeing him, and it's spring. It means nothing. Who the hell cares about the Grapefruit League? These games mean nothing. Nothing matters. But I'm still seeing him chase.
Yeah, he's lost at the plate.
I'm still seeing him chase.
It's the
What's
spring,
he 0 for 12
yeah,
or
spring
something?
is it's weird for me. For me, I look at it with established players, veterans like Trey and
But Bryce is killing it. He's laser focused.
Bryce is kind of a different beast.
I get it.
But what I'm getting at was guys like Trey and Schwarber. You know, I look at it like they're just trying to just get back in the swing of being at the park every day, and they're not going to put up some numbers usually, and they're looking at pitches and they're chasing pitches, but you know, it changes once that calendar flips to April, man. Yeah. I expect Trey to hit 300 this year. He hit 295 last year. He had a really good season last year. I expect him to hit that or better. I expect him, if he leads off, to be hitting 300 because he's going to hit singles.
But when I say I'm reverse flip-flop, and I'm almost thinking, I almost feel like even though it doesn't make sense, Schwarber should be the leadoff hitter.
No matter what.
I don't know why I feel this way. I don't.
You know
he's
what?
not ideally the guy I want leading off.
You know what, Tek? On that wavelength, I would have Bryce leading off.
Yeah, I heard that. Someone suggested that, and I thought that's not actually a bad idea because of my dad hates that idea, by the way.
I think whether Bryce is hitting first or second, okay, sure. If he's hitting second and Turner walks, 2-run home run, great.
Yeah.
But Bryce leading off, he walks a lot, man.
He does.
He walks a lot. Almost as much as Schwarber.
And I guess...
And he hits as many home runs.
I guess the method is, Turner gets on base, Bryce walks, you got two men on for Alec Boehm. And
right.
Here's my problem.
And then the double play to end the
You're right.
I'm just kidding. It wouldn't end the inning, but
dude, I was just about to say this. You stole it out of my head. I was just about to say...
It's going to happen. All these things are going to happen.
The dude, led the National League in grounding into double play.
He's been hitting the ball hard this spring, though.
I get it.
So far.
But, and here's the thing, right? I was adamantly against trading him. I didn't agree at all with that. I thought
you were.
They were trying to scapegoat a guy that was obviously hurt.
He had an injury,
and he was not. He was playing through it, and he probably shouldn't have been, but he was, and it was a fact. And Stott did too, and that would explain both of their down years. And Boehm didn't really have a down year statistically. Well, he still knocked in 90+ RBIs.
He still was top 5 in the league in doubles.
Right. So, but here's my thing about Boehm. This is it for me. I need you to bounce back this year and do. And not
I think Boehm's actually going to have a good year.
I need 90+ RBIs from you again.
Look, this is a really good club. The question to me isn't if they make the playoffs. I think they do. Whether it's wild card or division.
It's going to be tough.
But I think they make the playoffs.
They struggle to make that wild card.
I think they get it though. The question just comes down to, can they change their stripes when the clutch gene is required? We just saw what Jalen Hurts, when the clutch gene is required.
Yes.
We saw what Jalen Hurts does.
This is it.
Can they change their clutch gene? It's not easy to change genetics.
I do not believe it.
I'm on the fence.
This is my thing, right? The last 2 years, all I heard about was how they're changing their approach at the plate. They're making the changes.
Same thing.
And it's the same thing. You know why? Because the fact is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Just like Jared Goff is not going to be better in his 10th season. He's not a big game quarterback.
No.
Just like Dan Marino and Phillip Rivers they never won a chip.
No.
So many great baseball players never won championships. Barry Bonds never won a ring.
Right.
So are you going to be able to transcend who you are when it matters most after you never have? Although Schwarber has.
Yeah.
Trey has one.
Yes.
Those are the 2 World Series champions on this team. Those are the guys that should be doing it more in those situations.
By the way, that's why they're here. They got them because they had that championship makeup and they had that familiarity with Bryce. And they were like, well, these are Bryce's guys and they have championship makeup.
Right, they have the pedigree.
Yeah.
But still, in spite of that, both of them in that Mets series, they just collectively fell off a cliff.
Bryce and Castellanos were the only guys that were really doing anything.
That's it.
And
Castellanos, and say what you want to say about Casty, and people get on him way too much during the year. That guy
I like that.
He's had some of the bigger postseason hits in Phillies history.
But I'm like done collectively with this group. With this is it.
It's a fair time, in my opinion. It's fair for you to say this is your last season.
The last hurrah.
Give them
That's
a
what
chance
this is
to
for
be
me.
it.
Yeah.
To be now.
And for Rob Thompson, by the way. And for Rob Thompson.
Whoever wins the National League is winning the World Series.
That's fair.
Because if we win the National League, you know who that means we beat?
The Dodgers.
There you go. If we're good enough to beat LA in the NLCS in a series that probably would be
I don't believe
four
we
out
are,
of 7
but I hear
in
you.
Los Angeles, 4 out of 7 would be in Los Angeles.
Yep.
If we're good enough to beat them in the NLCS, I don't care who we play from the American League.
Right.
So this is their last chance, and I agree with you. This group, at least the hitters, the pitchers are around. They ain't going nowhere.
You're right.
This pitching staff is good, man.
Yeah.
Now, Wheeler's the closest to being on the way out.
The thing with me was despite there was some dysfunction with the fifth starter for a long stretch last year.
I know.
Guess what? They were still one of the top 2 staffs in all of baseball.
But here's the thing. If they would have had a real fifth starter, they would have had better seating, and they wouldn't have played the Mets
maybe
in the first round.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
And these things change everything. Because if
Yeah.
we would have played the Brewers in that first round, guess what? We win that series.
Yeah, well, that collapse in the final week and a half of the season, that was a preview to what they were going to be in the playoffs.
It was, and I was skeptical that was going to be the case. But
you thought they were going to flip the switch. I didn't.
I did. I gave them the benefit of the doubt because
did.
of the previous 2 years, and I thought, this team has been on the precipice against the world's best 2 years in a row.
And I think it was DeCamera, because I heard Dombrowski on the radio.
Yeah.
And DeCamera brought up my pet peeve in baseball. He said, they go dry, the offense goes dry in the postseason, and everybody just shrugs their shoulder and goes, well, that's baseball. And Dombrowski said, I don't believe that.
But he said it on record.
Yeah.
Last year he said that well, that's baseball. He said it at a press conference.
This year he said it yesterday on WIP, or today, when was it? Yesterday on WIP.
Yeah.
He said, I don't believe in that's baseball. He says, I don't believe in that.
It's only when it's convenient.
Well,
see, right now the messaging from him has to be kind of like it is from us on the show about this team. Like, this is your last hurrah. He's got to make that clear indirectly.
He said some things that really struck a chord with me. He said he was asked about, he's heard people refer to this team within the organization as great, and DeCamera said, I don't believe that this is a great team. Do you? And Dombrowski said, no, I can't commit to that word great. They're not a great.
Great means you win the trophy.
Yeah. He said great is a championship thing.
They're
and
very
right
good.
now they're a good team.
They're very good.
They're good, very good. He said, but I can't. They're not great.
That's a motivator, though. That's a motivating tactic. That's a motivating psychological tactic.
It needs to be, because this is the last hurrah. They need, if everybody thought that they were on such a mission last year, that mission needs to be turned up to a louder decibel level.
91 wins, Tek.
I
was on the money last year, 95.
I think I'm more around 87 right now, and we'll see.
I was on the money last year.
I get it.
Dead on.
I get it.
And that was with the collapse.
I get it. For me, it's always subject to change. I have to see.
I hear you. I'm going 91.
June 1st. By the way,
91,
I will
71.
be so furious if June 2nd, June 3rd comes around and Rojas batting 180 is in the lineup. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to lose
Rojas has only
my
improved,
mind.
though. He's only improved as a pro the whole time
I
he's been
get
here.
it,
He's
but
only improved.
I need Crawford to be in that. I need Crawford to be the starting center fielder. If Rojas is in the ones or like 206, I need Crawford.
He's
there.
a league average hitter in his MLB career. He's a league average hitter. Rojas, yeah.
Listen, I love his defense.
In his MLB career overall.
But I need Crawford as a starting center fielder.
That's fair. Why not?
By
Bring
the
him
first
up.
week of June.
Give him a chance to do it, yeah.
I need
Come
that.
bring the kid up here.
Yeah.
Let him play ball.
I get it if Miller might not be ready. Miller kind of looked a little shell-shocked.
You keep Rojas on your bench, though.
Yeah, I'm down
Keep
with
Rojas
that.
on the bench.
I think Miller was a little shell-shocked.
Yeah, he was.
On a major league level.
He
He
was.
did some things where he looked okay. I think the guy that looks great is Uncle Rico Rincones.
Rincones, yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Wow.
He looks good. Him and Crawford, I need to see, and Painter, I need to see them up on this team
Well, we'll see
on a
what
major
happens.
league level in June.
Got about 90 days till then.
Yeah, you do. And we're not that far away. We're a few weeks away from
90
opening day.
days to June, Tek.
Yeah, right. And
when you wake up for
we all know
baseball.
June 1st is like the Christmas day for the casual NBA fan.
That's
like
you.
when the league start, when the
Yes.
season starts.
That's
for me though,
yeah.
I'm hypersensitive.
You're hyper tweeting in April. You're hyper tweeting in April.
Yes, opening weekend. You go 0-3. I'm going ballistic. I'm losing my mind. Okay, and I know they kind of started this way last year, and then they won the division. But this is different than last year for me. This is last hurrah.
Although there's
Mets
Mets are dropping like flies right now to injury.
They always do. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, they're still going to be good. I don't think the Phils have as clear a path to win the division this year. But
no.
it's a 3-team toss-up.
It is. So hopefully we're back here next week, and we're talking about something that the Eagles have come up with.
I'm excited to see what Howie does. It's like Christmas every week with the Eagles now.
Right now, it really,
it's truly like that.
It's crazy. This
It's
is the kind
remarkable.
of organization you got. You win the Super Bowl, then you do this, you do that. Now you're in the mix for this guy, and you're talking.
They're about to take the field
tremendous.
in September with as good a chance to repeat as any Super Bowl champion in the history of the NFL.
Absolutely. Because they finally,
good.
You look around, and what you didn't have in 2018 was like a core group. All the guys that did great, and other than Wentz.
Yeah, they were like transient.
Foles.
They were transient players.
One
like
year
Garrett Blunt,
guys,
Torrey
yes.
Smith.
18, they were gone along with the quarterback who had the greatest individual performance of all time. He gone.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that
like
weird?
You're
Well, no. Wentz came out and tried to play.
Yeah, but like. He didn't win you the bowl.
No.
Like the infrastructure and the core, there was none. It was like
It
gone.
is fully there right now.
You look around on this team on both sides of the ball, and there's a core, a friggin'
It's
core.
exciting, man.
And that's even on defense, you look around and you're like, whoa. You look at the defensive line, it's like almost all drafted guys. And the linebacker, yeah, Baun, but like you discovered Baun. And next to him is a drafted guy. Your corners are drafted guys.
Yeah.
Like I call Rodgers. They bring him back. He's like a rescue dog. He was completely abandoned because of the gambling thing. You saved him. You rescued him. You rescued Becton.
Yeah.
You have a core here that is just. You're right. That's why everybody. Howie does everything in threes. There's a 3-year window for them to win one more.
You know what I want to see next February, Tech? I want to see the Eagles and Chiefs again. I honestly do. And I am excited to see the Andy Reid that I recognize again. I just want to see the Andy Reid I recognize because that Super Bowl, I recognize that Andy Reid
honestly,
a lot.
The Chiefs, yes. The Chiefs.
We know that Andy.
Yes. Even though it's even worse than any Andy I remember.
Just the look on the sideline, it was so satisfying.
You know what Andy usually does? And I for sure thought he was going to do it, and he didn't. I thought he was going to make some sort of adjustments in that second half and make it at least a watchable game.
I thought they would come out. I thought they would make it 24-8 right away.
Yes. For us, it was the most watchable game in the history of the Eagles. But for the rest of the country and the world, this was an unwatchable game.
I love it.
20 minutes in.
That's after as stressful as the Rams game was, that was enough stress for me for the whole postseason.
And that's why bringing Stafford back, I'm looking at the Rams like, the Rams.
I don't know, man.
They're a good team. I don't know that they're even as good as the Commanders.
As long as it's Stafford and Nakua, and they have a defense that is at least top 13, 14, yeah, they'll be. But they're not scary.
I wouldn't say they're scary.
They're not scary.
Yeah. So this is where we are. The Eagles are tremendous. We're dealing with a tremendous organization. And in the next in this 3-year window, where everybody's signing for 3 years, this 3-year window is going to produce one more.
I think
at
it
least
is.
One
and
more.
Then they're a dynasty.
I think the Chiefs take a step back. I'm hoping that we get to see the matchup that everybody really wanted to see.
Oh, the Bills.
Eagles-Bills. Yeah. I think that especially if the Bills go get DK Metcalf, which is really, they need a receiver.
Yeah.
If they go get somebody like Metcalf.
Poor man's A.J. Brown.
I get that too, yeah. But look.
They played at the same college, too.
Yeah. Oh, did they?
Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
That's right.
DK was a little older.
I think that it would be a great matchup, and you put somebody like DK or even like Devontae Adams or somebody serviceable, somebody that's actually
give him
decent.
a real receiver.
Yeah,
not Khalil Shakir.
How do you? I mean, come on, man. How do you have this elite MVP quarterback? And the only reason why he was really MVP, to be honest, he had comparable numbers with Jalen Hurts, for Christ's sake. The only reason why he won MVP is because he's doing it by himself.
Right, and he doesn't take sacks. He doesn't.
No,
take
his running back is James Cook, for God's sakes. He didn't really. And look, I'm not dissing James Cook. He's a decent running back.
Yeah, he's
but
good.
like he's decent. You know what I mean?
He's probably top 10 now.
Maybe
top
12.
Top
12.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, he's right outside the top.
But I hear
10.
you. Like, Birds Bills, the LaShawn McCoy Bowl.
Yeah. There you go.
Let's do it.
All right. Free agency talk next week. Hopefully something to talk about.
We will. We'll have a surprise guest.
All right. There it is. We didn't even need a guest this week.
No.
So much going on.
A lot to talk about.
We had a bounce back show. We will see you next week.
Vet Alumni.